In this video, you will discover the 5 red flags to know if he is wasting your time. Hi, I'm Antia, founder and creator of the Magnetize Your Man Method. And look, make sure you stay until the end of this video as I have some juicy bonuses for you. So let's go ahead and dive right into the 5 red flags. Number 5. Your deeper values simply don't align. Now, this is really important because so many women simply override that. You notice that maybe your political beliefs are not so aligned, or your religious beliefs, or how to raise kids, right? Like some of you, it's like maybe more traditional, while the other person is just like more sort of, like trying to do something completely out of the box and sort of maybe more innovative or whatever, right? So there's different ways of living, right? Having lifestyles. So truly, truly important when you look at values in your life, because it's going to be even more painful if later on you find out that you have different values. And I'm sure some women on this channel, you can vouch for that, right? Who found out like, oh, I love my first husband, he was attractive, or he was this and that and the other, right? But our values really weren't aligned, right? And we'll actually go further more into the video where else this can show up. Number 4, it doesn't feel right. So here's the thing, I should say feel right? So because what happens so often is that we're actually feeling, I don't know, I just can't get on board with it, right? Like my mom personally actually felt nauseous on her own wedding. Something in her gut just didn't feel right. My parents lasted for 10 years, but were fighting every single day of the week. And so, like your body knows. And so what it takes for you is actually looking at, okay, how can you listen to your body more and let the body almost like override the mind? Because usually it's the other way around. And we're actually convincing ourselves. We're master convincers, right? What's actually not right for us. And then when you look back, right, Steve Jobs says it best, that you can actually see everything, connecting the dots backwards, right? So you're looking back into the past and you look actually, oh, well, I had this weird feeling here with this guy in high school, or I had this kind of like interesting feeling. What is actually true, by the way, is that when they looked at kidnapping victims, and they did some research on that, and they asked them, right, like, so what happened before you went into the truck or said yes to this guy or whatever, right? And they all had a feeling. They all had a feeling that something is wrong, something is not right? But yet, their normal, like their mind was just like, don't be silly, don't exaggerate things, don't be so serious, whatever the case may be. So if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Number 3, he doesn't have a great relationship history. Okay, so this is actually really interesting because I've seen like many men, sometimes even in their 40s, in their 50s, but they've never really been married, right? They've never been in really deep, long relationships, maybe like 6 months, 8 months, right? So just kind of looking at, what's going on here? Why is there so much avoidance? Why is there so much inconsistency? Like what's going on? Where the depth is missing here, right? Or maybe he was just going from one relationship to the other, to the other, to the other, and there was never a break. Or, right, like you really have to see, okay, what's going on here? Is this guy gone through like 3 marriages? And what's going on? Is he learning from his mistakes? So you really got to understand, like, okay, the relationship history is actually telling you a lot about this guy, much more than he would like you to know, that he would actually present to himself. And again, that's of course where I invite you to listen to your instincts too, right? Just kind of like, I don't know about this, right? Or just maybe all the women have broken up with him, or the other way around, he is always broken up with everyone, right? You can see so much through the patterns of the past relationships that someone had. Now, for me, it was particularly true, right? Because I was never in a long-term relationship until I met my husband at the age of 29. Now, here's the thing. Of course, many men told me, oh, you're crazy. You should get some support. But I didn't call it coaching. I called it more like I needed a psychologist, and I needed mental support and so on and so forth, right? There's something wrong with me. And I do have to admit, the fact that I was not in a deep connected long-term relationship was an indication that I did have a distortion. I had an avoidant part inside of myself, right? So here's the thing. If somebody works on themselves and it's like, oh, I know I'm doing this, so there's a high level of self-awareness, now that's a different story. But for the most part, people just run and have their same patterns over and over again. And I mean, I was 29. So if you look at a man who's maybe 49, it's like, okay, like what you have come across books and workshops and experts and neighbors or people who have invited you to grow. Did you take advantage of it? Number 2, he doesn't plan for the future. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with those kind of dates, right? That don't really, like you don't really know where you're at with this guy, right? You have a great time. He makes you great compliments. He makes you feel like $1 million. But there is in the back of your mind this sort of feeling, I don't really know where this is headed. And this could be like a few months in, a few weeks in. It could also even be, worst case, a few years in, right? So that he's really stringing you along, but yet there's never talk of like, what are your plans for Christmas, right? Like really talking about Valentine's Day, New Year's plans, him, like you meeting his parents, him meeting your parents, things like that, right? So there's never sort of like this future planning. So he's basically saying sort of like, you're not in my future, you're in my now, you're Mrs. Right now, right? But in terms of like Mrs. Right for the future, I don't know about that. So be aware of that and pay attention more to it. Maybe ask him also some deeper questions, right, about the future. And yes, what that takes is overcoming your fear of rejection and overcoming your fear to be a burden, to come off clingy or needy. Because look, we are all needy. I'm needy. You're needy. We all have needs, right? So it's really important to not deny those needs. And finally, number 1, he is not growth-oriented. Now, this is why so many marriages, relationships fall apart all the time. And you know, you've heard this probably before too. I grew out of it, right? Like the relationship just grew apart, right? Like one person grew faster than the other. And I actually had like one client, and they also had several kids, and they were married for about like 20 years or so. And just really realized, wow, she was growing and he wasn't, right? He was just watching TV and doing his thing, and just like watching his newspaper, and she was going to workshops and traveling the world and just really growing herself, growing all the parts inside of herself, understanding her own shadows, gaining awareness over that, increasing her communication skills, while he had no ability of that. And he actually tried to stop her. He didn't like that. He's like, why can't we just go back to normal? Like, why can't we just have our normal life back? Like, why do we need to do all this stuff and grow and need to talk about things and use all this different language and learn new concepts? And I don't want to do that. Now, that also goes back to that misalignment of values, right? So one person is growth oriented and the other one is simply not. They want to have their white picket fence, they want to have their mediocre lifestyle, and they just could care less about being fully self-expressed, right? They're just happy where they are. They're in a little safe comfort zone, while the other person feels like stifled and potentially even dead because they don't feel like they're growing, they're expanding, and they're fully living their soul purpose. If you like this video, here is what's next. Number 1, make sure you subscribe to my channel, share and like this video. And I would love to hear some comments in the comment section. Which one of those points sound familiar to you? Number 2, I invite you to take my playlist course, Watch It Fully, on how to attract that right guy for you. My gift to you. And finally, number 3, take my Magnetize Your Man quiz so you get personalized strategy just for you by clicking the link below or going to magnetizeyourman.com. gmail.com. Ladies, I had so much fun creating this video. I'll talk to you next time. Much love. Mwah.